Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Venerable Wade Birdie Panyo, and this is Empty Cloud Monastery, the regular Friday night monk chat, an opportunity for viewers to write in questions for us to answer. It's simply a question and answer format with no Dhamma talk. And we have a live audience here as well of yogis and friends who come into the monastery to practice meditation and to listen in and ask their questions as well. I'm delighted to have with us again this evening Venerable Aya Suwijana. So I'll allow the Venerable Aya to introduce herself.
Yes, I'm just visiting here for about 7 weeks. I've come from Dhammadrini Vihar, and I'm kind of a wandering monk at this point.
Sadhu. I say delighted to have her with us again because she gave a Dhamma talk this morning on live stream, which can be found on the Empty Cloud YouTube channel, I expect, already posted there. It's from this morning at 8 a.m. on feeling. It's a delightful talk I'd recommend to everyone, if I may, my humble opinion. All right, should we get started with questions?
Or do we Namo Tassa?
Oh, Namo Tassa. Oh, great. Sure, of course.
Namo Tassa
Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Wonderful. All right. Let's see.
So it looks like already there's a question. There's many greetings, but someone.
Right. See if I can operate this. I apologize. A little bit slow. Oh, here we go. Okay. We have so many coming in, so we have to scroll back up just to see the beginning. All right. We have
mostly greetings.
That's right. Julie sending in many Anjalis and Holly Griswold. Do we know Holly? Oh, yes. Okay. Linda says hello. Metta and peace to you each and all from finally sunny and warm Oregon. Holly Griswold. Mary Burns, good evening, Venerables, with Angelis, and Richard, and Yankee Apple also with Angelis, and Jayanta Fernando saying good evening. Hello, Jayanta. And Rick Thorne offering deep gratitude from Harrison County, Indiana. Wonderful. Angelis. And Holly is saying how much she loves the coming together of the different branches of Buddhism in the upcoming monk chat. And Kim Gordon says hello. Jake with Angelis. Louisa saying good evening. Julie from Quebec, Canada saying hello. Gayatri, who came in recently to the monastery to offer food, which is and she recently started up a meditation practice. So great to know see her in person and to hear about her practice. Adrian dialing in this evening as well as this morning. He had a good question for us this morning for the Aya. And Richard has written in perhaps our first question. Boy, the type is so small. How can the cultivation of sustained relinquishment of unwholesome tendencies, particularly through the development of hiri and ottappa, be utilized to strengthen one's sila? Both look at each other.
It's a complicated question in a way, but it's also, I think it also answers the question within the question.
Sadhu, okay.
Is that seem that way to you?
Let's see, maybe it is a little bit of a complicated question. If I request to read it again. I may need to read for myself. I need to read it one more time. How can the cultivation of sustained relinquishment of unwholesome tendencies, particularly through the development of hiri and ottappa, be utilized to strengthen one's sila? Well, how do you mean, Aya? What would you say?
Well, the hiri ottappa is the experience that sometimes it's translated like a fear and dread, but it's like our own conscience of knowing that something is improper, that it's harmful, and then also, so that's our own sense of that might be called shame, but it's like also the opposite would be like self-esteem. Like he wouldn't do anything that would impact, what you feel was right. So that if you did something harmful, then and you knew it wasn't right,
Right.
then there's this feeling of remorse or regret. So then, but there's also the dread. I think is moral fear and dread or shame, and what was the other way that Hiriotapa's translated? But anyway, so then the consequences, the fear of the consequences, social or legal consequences, is I think that's the Otapa part. Here is what your own internal, feeling this is not right. So the sustained relinquishment of unwholesome tendencies. Okay, so then those two will support, because they form kind of a barrier or protective barrier internally and externally. Like I'm gonna reach for something that's not mine, and I go, oh, that's not a good thing to do. Or I'm about to say something really cruel, and then I think, oh, I don't want to cause harm to anyone else. That would, or if I make a mistake, then I reflect back, oh, that was not wholesome. How can I remedy the mistake? But that sustained relinquishment. So I think it's a protection from the unwholesome tendencies. I think in order for all the unwholesome tendencies to be never arising, I think you have to be arhat by that time. But so development, and then the sila. Okay, the sila. I think they all work to kind of mutually support one another. The sila are what they're called precepts. There's other words for sila, moral, ethical conduct, and the basic 5 precepts is non-harming. So so the Hiriotapa will strengthen the sila because so the sense that it doesn't feel right. Even the idea of doing something that would break my sila, if I start thinking, oh, maybe I could get away with it, and then you go, no, I'm going in the wrong direction with this. So the hiri would be what would be saying, that internal voice saying, oh, that's a bad idea, don't go that way. So that's the kind of the barrier. And then the otipo would be like I was saying, then other people would think wouldn't respect me, or I might get in trouble with the law or something. That's external. So so that would strengthen the sila. And then being aware of the arising of unwholesome states. I think that's maybe what you're talking about, sustained. I see anger arising. I see greed arising. Then I just the awareness of them and trying to abandon them continuously. Yeah, I think they would all work together. Do you have any ideas on this?
Let's see. Well, thank you, Aya. You mentioned so Hiriotapa, shame and fear of the consequences, and I think you mentioned, for example, if we do something wrong, say we steal something, or we kill someone, or we tell a lie. For example, if we commit perjury in court, for example, might get in trouble with society, might get in trouble with the law. This is pointed out in the sutras as one of those kind of immediate effects of karma, bad karma. that we get in trouble with the law, for example, and so we can see a result right in the here and now if we do something pretty serious against the 5 precepts. From a religious point of view, also in the suttas, the Buddha talks about how, in fact, the reach of karma is longer, and so it can affect us in ways where we might not see the cause and effect relationships ourselves, resulting in negative consequences for us throughout our life and into the next birth as well. So, for example, for killing living beings who might be reborn in hell, for example, or in the animal realm, or as a ghost. And if we kill living beings, it says in the suttas, the least negative consequence is that if we are fortunate enough to be reborn as a human being, we will have a short lifespan, for example. So from a more kind of a religious point of view, and so if we, I sometimes think about this. And I have faith in the law of karma and in the idea of rebirth. And so sometimes if I think about this in regard to precepts, I think, boy, I don't really want to I don't want to transgress the 5 precepts. So. And then so this is one way of contemplating a fear of the consequences. And sometimes with regard to shame, thinking about is it appropriate? Is a certain action or way of doing things appropriate for my role? So each of us can consider with regard to ourselves and our role in society, for example. Am I acting in a way that's appropriate to my role? As a monk, we have certain ways of doing things that are appropriate for monks, and that might be perfectly fine. There may be things that are perfectly fine to do as a layperson, for example, but that as a monk, we might think, well, this is not appropriate for me, and out of a sense of shame, I wouldn't do it. So that's one way to kind of guard ourselves. And we think about different roles in society. Police officers have their way of doing things, and there's certain things that might be appropriate for other people to do, but for a police officer, we feel like they have a sense of shame that they wouldn't do. For example, and the same for doctors and other kinds of professions. If we can think, for example, well, I'm a Buddhist, and the Buddha taught that we should follow the 5 precepts, at least, and we think, well, if I'm a Buddhist and I say I follow the teachings of the Buddha, then maybe out of a sense of shame, a Buddhist might be inclined to keep the 5 precepts for that reason as well. So a few ideas.
Oh, thank you for bringing in the thought of future births, because there's like, if I think I got away with it, no one's going to find out about it,
Right.
and I can get it. I can do something underhanded, and in this lifetime, maybe I'm skilled at deceiving people, so I can do it.
Right.
But then this is the karma, for future lives. But also there is also this tension that comes from being deceptive, and always having to cover your tracks, and always have to. So there is the immediate karma, but you might fool yourself into thinking there isn't. But if you do believe in rebirth, then that would prevent that kind of. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
I think it's a neat point you brought up also, that if we do something that we don't want other people to find out about, that then we may have to also engage in deceptive behavior as well, or we might have to tell lies. And so oftentimes we don't just break one precept, but then we start breaking a second precept as well.
Yeah. So then there's all that mental and verbal karma that's going on to protect. So maybe even just one little incident or something. Yeah.
And then it can pile on, because then if you tell a lie about the incident, but people suspect you, then you have the problem of then people don't trust you anymore, and you have to lie on top of a lie to try and continue to keep out of getting in trouble. You create even a bigger problem for yourself.
Excuse me.
It may have been bigger than the original fault that you performed. Okay, thank you, Aya.
So there's a new comment further down. I don't know if it's another.
Sure. Well, Karuna, who was just here for a week or 10 days, sends in her Anjalis. Hello, Karuna. Manal is dialed in, saying good evening, Venerables. And Jayanta commenting again, saying good evening. Oh, I accidentally skipped some. Okay. And Amaranta. Then we have Dhamma Learner. let's see. I wonder if I could change this view. I apologize. Let me give it a quick try here to see if I can make the comments bigger. Shift +6. Hopefully I don't shut down the whole thing. It didn't do
there
anything.
is a question right here.
Okay.
There's a giant anta.
Okay. Is it this one here? Gayatri?
Yeah,
Okay.
it looks like.
I'll go right to that. Okay, I was going to try to change the screen layout, but it didn't do anything. All right. Should I read it? Or?
Can this box be larger? Would that make it larger?
I would like to, but I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway,
That's actually what I was trying
so
to do.
we could just peer at that.
Right? Moving close and squint. If I may, venerables, if we accept a promotion at work and want to go up the ladder, does that mean we are feeding greed? Thank you.
Well, should I
Please.
take a stab at it? It depends on what the circumstances are. Like, if say you're working in the hospital, and then this is a promotion up the ladder. It doesn't say what kind of work it is. If you're, you might be taking on more responsibility, and you might be doing things that are helping others. And you might be earning more money to support your family. And, so it depends on a lot of circumstances. If you're just kind of stepping on people, pushing people down as you're going up, and just not caring about the consequences of your behavior, and trying to scratch your way up the ladder, then it's not a wholesome action. And just if you're just doing it for money, like some people choose professions just for the fact that it's lucrative, and then they get really competitive, and then they don't care about what the impact of the profession is on society or on other people. Then that's really motivated by greed. But some people, because of tenure, because of their experience, because they can offer something really to the company, or to their, and depending on what kind of business it is, then if you're in healthcare or education, or some people choose jobs not because of money, but because this is where their heart is. So then advancing in that wouldn't necessarily be totally greedy. And like I said, if earning more money is helping your family, or you're able to, offer, share it with other people somehow, like charities or whatever. So there's a lot of circumstances that depends on whether it's actually motivated by greed. What is the motivation, and what are the circumstances? So I don't know if you're in that kind of position right now, but that's. Do you have anything to add to this one?
Let's see. I wonder if I have anything to add to this. Maybe okay. If we go look at it from a different angle, is if we talk about the kind of the positive you mentioned about if you're trying to serve society, for example, or of course take care of your family. And I think those things, if we can key into that kind of motivation, it feels really good inside. And if we pay attention to what our motivations are and how it makes us feel inside, then we see quite a difference there. If we get in touch with what's happening inside of us and see, well, is this about greed, or is this about my ego, for example? And how does that feel? Ajahn Sumedho once said, selfishness is the least pleasant emotion of all. And I think there's something to that. If we have the mindfulness to pay attention, how does it feel? And then if we think about how does it feel when we've done something we feel really good about, that we think is really good, something good for other people, such as taking care of our families, for example, or helping out society. And so, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's see what we have next. Hasa Kanpana. I don't know. Okay. Hello, Venerables, from Amy W. Okay. Hello, Amy. What is the name of the short chant of appreciation that is given after a Dhamma talk? That's a great question. Actually, I don't know the name of it.
Oh, I don't know that it has a particular name. It's just Anumodana.
Yes, right.
Anumodana.
Right.
It's so just rejoicing in the. So they're just saying sadhu, but the person is saying, now let us express our appreciation or something like that.
Right. Right. Rejoice.
Rejoice in the Dhamma that was shared.
Right.
But
yeah, we could actually get the. We probably have a Bhikkhu manual right over there.
Yeah, it's just something that it's traditionally done. I guess, especially Thai forest. But the beginning, the one at the beginning, this is the Brahma Sahampati asking the Lord Buddha to share the Dhamma. That there were those with little. Isn't that one? That the Brahma Sahampati comes to the Lord Buddha.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
In Anjali, and because he with his with his divine ear or his divine perception of the Buddha's thoughts, he knew that the Buddha was considering, that's too difficult for people to understand this Dhamma. So so many people was viewing the world as the Lord Buddha was looking at around it, and these people are just so overcome with greed. They're so blinded by greed. How could they possibly understand this Dhamma? He took so many lifetimes to penetrate. And so the Brahma Sahampati says, oh, please, there's those with little dust in their eyes, please share the teaching. So that one, that's where that one comes from.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know if there's a particular name. If
right.
you're
I wonder if it's right.
Yeah, but at the end
we have you're talking about the Brahma Chaloka Dipati Sahampati, right? That's where the referring to the Brahma requesting a Dhamma talk. So actually
he was asking the Lord Buddha, please share the Dhamma with others. Right. There's those who could understand.
Right. And actually it just has the English title requesting a Dhamma talk. So I wonder if I thought it
is that a new edition of the Bhikkhu's Manual?
Yeah, it's
really, wow.
I don't know if, well, I have to apologize. Acknowledging the teaching on 211.
Acknowledging the teaching at the end.
But it doesn't have a Pali title. I wonder if it would be in the older version, but that's, oh well, I'm afraid we don't know the actual title. It may not have one. I wondered if, because we never actually use the title, so we might have one in the book that we wouldn't know about.
And basically, people are saying sadhu, sadhu. He's just inviting people to sadhu, right. Whoever it is, he or she or they.
Right.
And then, so there's no, I don't know.
I don't know if there's a title. I apologize. We apologize. Yeah, so there may not be one.
So then there's the next question.
Okay. From Amaranta. Less self-identification with professional activity can take you to develop non-attachment to some aspects of your past life. People around me took this negatively. I feel sad even when I'm better. I'm not sure I follow.
So it sounds like they're trying to not identify so much with their profession. And
nice.
so that's not attached. So the sense of self bound up on whatever profession that they have. And attachment to your past life. I'm not sure if you mean actually another birth in the past or the past the past in this lifetime.
Mm.
But people took this negatively, so they feel like they're not as attached to their past life, and then other people aren't approving that they're not identifying with their profession.
Right.
Or is it the profession from the past or profession in this lifetime? Yeah, I'm not quite sure if it's but if you feel like this is helping you with the development of non-self or the development of less attachment, then what other people think of you. Yes, I see you,
Teddy can't
buddy.
resist.
Teddy. Yes, I'm pondering the question. Yeah, so hopefully what other people think, if it's a positive impact on your development, hopefully you won't need to feel sad about that.
Just move for water. Move out of reach of the Teddy's tail, perhaps. He's batting it pretty hard.
Yeah, this is, I'm not sure quite what to do with this other than,
Well,
yeah.
It actually isn't a question, as far as I can tell. It isn't. I'm not sure this posed as a question or perhaps as a comment.
It's a comment.
Okay.
So sad. They're feeling sad, even though. Well, I think if it's a wholesome change in your life, then eventually the sadness will dissipate. And when I was older when I went into monastic life, so I did have a pretty full lifetime of experience and friendships and things like that. And then the people that were supportive of me going into monastic life are still my friends. And then those who couldn't understand what I was doing, those relationships just faded away. So I don't know if that's relevant to what the question is, but if you're making progress on the path, eventually then the joy will come up. There should be something joyful.
Sure. Right. So too. Okay. Thank you, Aya. Oh. Well, Mary, good friend of the monastery who lives close by, says she would like to invite the yogis and the Sangha to visit West Orange Arts Council. She gives the address, 551 Valley Road, to see an exhibit celebrating the beauty of motherhood and Mother Earth tomorrow, so it'll be Saturday, between 1 and 4. Mary did a wonderful sculpture of the Buddha image over there. One of our lay supporters sculpted that herself for us.
Oh, that's
Yes.
so beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Under, if we're more technologically savvy, I might try to display it on the screen, but I could accidentally break the camera or something.
We have another question here.
Here we go. Okay.
Anapanasati tetrads.
Yes, from Holly, the Anapanasati tetrads, are they most useful as a method or a measure of one's journey into the absorptions?
Well, I guess it depends on your teacher and how they're approaching it, because it could be um, some teachers are very methodical. I know Bhante Nalio is a, has you just kind of go through the process to a certain depth that like, and maybe not be really deep, but you just go through just kind of as an exercise to kind of get a taste of moving through it all. I've heard some of his guided meditation. And then some people feel that this progress is just an unfolding that happens over time, but then you can just be stuck in one tetrad for the rest of your life. It may be. So one's journey into the absorptions, and that's not the final. It's not the final.
I think I know where you're going. I wonder if I know where you're going with this. Please.
Final unfolding. I don't know what to say, how to describe it. The final part of the journey is the knowledge and liberation.
Sadhu.
So that I think it's really an unfolding over time, and then we can maybe move through a certain depth and get deeper as we progress on the path. Yeah. And I think there's a little bit of both too with the method, because you have to really subtly nudge yourself a little bit, and just even understanding the structure of the tetrads gives you kind of a little bit of an idea that there's some progression, and then you might observe in yourself this and reinforce certain qualities that are being developed.
Right.
But I don't know if you have something to say about this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It could be both a. I mean, in my personal opinion, both a method and a measure. So you can see what's happening in meditation compared to the tetrads. I never really thought about that before. I think it's a good insight. Yeah. But one of the things I found in my own Dhamma practice over the years is seeing how sometimes the teachings that we have in the suttas or the teachings we hear from the masters and so on, and then we actually see it in our own lives. We can experience it for ourselves, and so some verification there. And it's very good for faith and feeling like this path really does go somewhere. And this is, these teachings. There's something to these teachings that we have personally. Yeah. So I think the method we see in the Anapanasati Sutta, I've come to think of it over the years as kind of a it's very terse. It isn't explained very much. And it turns out, it seems in practice, for the various meditation masters, the way they teach, that there can be quite some liberty taken. The process of meditation also is somewhat creative. It's an art. And so we might learn from one meditation teacher, for example, to focus on the breath at the nose, for example. Another one might teach to focus on the breath at the heart. For example, Ajahn Chah taught at the nose, and Ajahn Mahabua taught at the heart. And the Mahasi Sayadaw taught at the abdomen, for example.
And then people argue that's not
right.
the breath, it's the body. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Right. So arguments can erupt over this. Which one is right?
Yeah.
But actually, it seems like they all have value to them if we practice a little bit with them. I mean, my personal opinion. So this is one example of how meditation can be kind of an art, I think. And so, yeah. And then the value of having a teacher to help us to understand the teachings we find in the sutras, for example, I think. Okay.
So hopefully that's helpful. Yeah, I think it's like Tom Reed was saying, it's actually both. Well, both of us are kind of saying it's both, but
not just to the absorptions, but
not just to the absorptions. No, it's like that's
all the way to enlightenment.
To deep insight, deep penetrating insight to
Sadhu.
the liberation of the heart and mind.
Okay. On to Rick Thorne. Venerables, how do we determine what our emotional needs versus what our emotional wants? Thank you. Yes.
Well, you can ask yourself, do I really need this? Or do I just want it?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was talking to me about the difference between mouth hunger and bodily hunger.
Uh-huh.
And then what's triggering the emotional needs, emotional wants. Okay, so emotionally, maybe having to do with other people, wanting to be around others, wanting to be appreciated and loved, and or maybe emotionally something bound up in feeling successful or feeling safe. So you kind of have to really ask yourself, and is it in moderation or excessive, or am I depriving myself emotional need with being with others? Maybe am I demanding too much of others' time? Am I demanding too much of others' attention? Is it in balance? Is it respecting others and myself? Is it? Yeah. So there's all these kind of maybe checks and just checking for the balance, moderation, and that's kind of it's hard to really pinpoint what your emotional needs can be. It's a very broad. It's a kind of a broad question. So I hope that's addressing that.
Yeah. I wonder if I could offer. It reminds me of a specific story from my own life.
Please. Yeah, please.
In the monkhood, we have very strict rules about consuming foods and beverages. This is a very specific kind of thing, but I wonder if the general principle can be derived from the story I have about this. And so, I remember being at Mapchan in Thailand, in Rayong province, and it could get quite hot and quite humid there, and oftentimes we ate only one meal a day. And so we get up early in the morning and do our morning puja. That is this chanting and meditation. They go out on an alms round, so it could be quite a long walk. And then get back into the monastery and have some duties. And finally, we get to eat the one meal. It was a big deal. Getting to eat this one meal in the morning. And then oftentimes there'd be some more work afterwards as well. There'd be more duties afterwards. And sometimes after those duties were done, we might have an opportunity to might have an opportunity to have a Pepsi.
Have a
Pepsi.
Oh, Pepsi. Okay.
This is one kind of story. Sometimes we also had some snacks. If we had some really hard labor to do after the meal, they would give us some more snacks before midday. Lumpua and then had quite a bit of metta for us. And but the Pepsi stuck in my mind because I remember I went through a process. Through one period of time where I would, after the duties, after the meal, I'd feel like, boy, I really feel like I could use a Pepsi, and it seems like I should have, like if I had some sugar, I probably should have something sugary. I feel like I kind of need some sugary stuff, and so sometimes and there was an opportunity to have something like this, so I have a Pepsi, and boy, it really hit the spot. I tell you, it was great, and. But I did kind of have this suspicion also in the back of my head. And one of the things about monk life is you have an opportunity to experiment with these kinds of things, even these relatively small things in life, really. But it helps us to work with our internal world in a little bit, And and so sometimes I say, well, I really feel like I really could use a Pepsi, but I would have just a bottle of water instead, just drink water. And I was surprised to see actually the whole situation resolved itself just by drinking water. And actually, I felt fine after that. And I didn't really need something sugary after all, many times. And I think what I derived from this and from other experiences was that oftentimes we'll have some kind of a bodily feeling, something's going on in the body. We might be hungry, we might be thirsty, or something like this. And then on top of that, the heart might initiate, some desire for something, a desire for sensual pleasure with regard to food and to drink, for example. So I think that really the basic issue was just that I was thirsty. Of course, it was hot and humid. There was a lot of work to do and this kind of thing. But then on top of the thirst, the heart initiated, a desire for something really sweet and tasty. And so if I went against my likes and my dislikes, and this urge to have something like a Pepsi, and just had the more basic thing, just the water, then I found that actually that took care of it. And I didn't really need anything sweet. So this is a very simple and straightforward learning process. And so we can work with that in a variety of ways in our lives with many different kinds of issues that come up, I think, and see where really is the line between needing and wanting to become much more clear in this way, because they can be so mixed up with each other. It'd be hard to distinguish without this kind of experimentation. Okay. Should we go on?
I guess so. If there are more questions.
Sure. Holly Griswold.
Right.
Okay. Oh, this is more about the Anapanasati Sutta. This is Holly again. I have used them in the past as a path or steps for meditation. Lately, I see them as a friendly map of where I am as I become stiller. Well, that's nice. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Because good example of befriending the suttas. Great. Okay. I think maybe we covered that. Do you feel like?
Yeah, I think they're just making a comment of their experience.
Okay, so Julie, is it unwholesome as a kindergarten teacher to be treating the children with movie and popcorn, for example? Outside of teaching, our school culture encourages and expects many special treats and experiences. But it's feeling more and more strange for me internally because I'm following the precepts and overall sense restraint. Oh, I see. Wow.
Oh, so what, as an adult, you have different needs and also what the society is thinking is appropriate. I think if you have choices about what kind of movies the children are watching, you might be selective and give them movies that are kind of helping their character instead of just popular entertainment. Kindergarten, I think that they're not as sophisticated. Some of them maybe are, that they're going to start saying, well, no, this is the popular thing. I think they may be more, a kindergartner might possibly be more receptive, especially if they respect you as a teacher and you say, oh, this is, this is very enthusiastic about the subject matter, and so it can be something that's tastefully and entertaining, but also helping them with their character. And that you might even go through, like I was a parent, and I would be selective of what kind of books and things that my son would see. And treats, yeah, I mean, children, I mean, that's the same thing too. If you can be a little bit selective and not give them total, oh, total junk. Courage is yeah. Um, Outside of teaching, our school culture encourages and expects many special. So this is in comparison to maybe other teachers and what the general population is doing. Following 8 precepts and sense restraint. Yeah, this is can't expect this of kindergartners to. Well, I was a nurse and I worked with both pediatric and adults, and they were needing the stimulus of the entertainment. And for the children, I could choose. I had more choice about what they were viewing, but for the adults, they would just choose something, and I'd just have to sit through stuff that was very unsavory for me. But it's definitely the children. We can influence them positively. I think that's it's an important profession, and we can make a positive impact on the children, but we can't expect them to be following 8 precepts. That's yeah, and maybe strange for me internally. Well, yeah, you can keep your precepts and not necessarily have any of the treats or something, and just have mudita for the children that they need the calories and the whatever more than adults do throughout the day. They can't keep 8 precepts. So I guess that's my idea on that one.
Right.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. Yes, I'm not sure. Well, it seems I'm not sure what it is that feels strange for you internally, Julie. So I'm a little bit confused about that. I think maybe one thing is it feels strange that the children are watching movies and eating popcorn, and presumably eating popcorn past midday, which would be relevant to the precepts. And so it's not like they're doing something bad. And so I'm not sure why you'd feel strange about it. Except perhaps the subject matter of the movies or something like that. So I guess I don't know if popcorn is the healthiest thing they could eat, but it's not anything like anybody's doing anything wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, and just secondhand, like when I was doing last about 6 months of when I was doing in-home nursing, I would have to sit it wasn't entertainment to me to be sitting with the clients, and when they were watching the TV or whatever, cartoons or something, that usually I had some control, but sometimes the older the cousin would come and they would put some really garbagey kind of there's a really actually unwholesome stuff for the kids. But if you have a choice, I think that's really
can help a lot.
That helps a lot. And then just not seeing it as entertainment for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, right. I think maybe that's an important line here is what are we doing and what are other people doing? I see that sometimes people, if they're keeping the 5 precepts, then if somebody else is breaking the 5 precepts, then they look down on the other person for not keeping the 5 precepts, for example, or they feel strange about it or have some internal feelings about it. And the same kind of thing can happen with the 8 precepts. I don't know if that's the case in this situation, Julie. So I apologize, but if we keep a focus on our sila is for us, and it's our own practice, so as is the rest of our spiritual practice, and what other people are doing is not us. It's one of the forms of perversion of perception is identifying with and acquiring other things. Thinking that things are us and ours. And if we can remember that, if we consciously think of, the fact that other people are not us and they're not ours, which is quite obvious to us intellectually, but not so obvious in terms of how the heart experiences life. And if we can consider that their behavior is also not us and not ours, it's remarkable how much the heart will let go with a simple observation. Because the heart does have this strange tendency. It seems so odd to us intellectually to cloy onto, to grab onto other things, identify with them, and then we suffer over them. And perhaps this is another example of that. That other people are not following the 8 precepts. If we consider that it's not us and it's not ours, then we should be content within ourselves with our own practice and feel quite good. So maybe I can offer that. All right.
I don't know if anyone out in the audience here has a question. Did you have a question?
Right.
And what is the next one? Let's see.
Okay. From Richard. Oh, Richard is saying, thank you, Aya and Bhante, for your thoughtful and insightful response.
There's another one.
You're welcome. Then Adrian, what are your thoughts on Reiki healing and transmutation of energy with regards to restraint of sensual desire, with regard to the opposite sex? Also, does celibacy increase the life force energy in an individual? Okay.
I don't know about Reiki healing.
Right. Me neither, I have to admit.
Sensual desire. I don't know if that's something you, I guess that you would go to a Reiki healer and they would be doing the Reiki on you, and you may notice for yourself whether it is decreasing. If that's the result you're wishing for. I think the sense restraint, if we're allowing our minds to proliferate about, because we've seen someone that's attractive, and so we watch. So the restraint of the senses is not letting a thought or a memory or something overpower our mind. So just the awareness of what's arising in the mind. This is what the Buddha teaches, actually, that if we're just letting our minds wander and we're gazing, or we do things that are stimulating the sense desire. I mean, people intentionally do that, so we intentionally avoid that. Then that just helps with decreasing and also seeing the disadvantages of that. Now the mind is just, you're talking about the desire itself. So you can see if you are feeling really strong desire, how actually it's dukkha. The experience of the sensual desire is dukkha. And if you get in touch with your body, and it's why is it that you're wanting to engage in that kind of activity, is because you think that it's going to relieve the dukkha, but it's just going to create more dukkha. It's going to create more suffering. So celibacy increase the life force energy in an individual. I think then you have if you're not engaging in pursuing relationships, then you have more time to yourself to pursue other things, your spiritual practice. Yeah, I think in the yogic traditions, they do talk about that the celibacy is actually you're conserving energy, and we probably are. I mean, life force energy, like the what is it called, Shakti or something like that.
I don't know from
Prana,
Huh?
prana, and
Prana,
chi,
and, yeah. Yeah, there's probably something to that. And the Buddhist teaching is more that we are devoting our, if we're celibate, we're devoting our lives to the teaching and the practice, and then also with the just being overcome by sense desire and just acting out on it is perpetuating our time in samsara.
Right.
It's
Right.
just, it's not leading us out of samsara, it's just keeping us in the perpetual cycle of samsara. And always chase it's dukkha, and we're just perpetuating dukkha, and we think we're relieving dukkha, but we're actually just perpetuating it.
Right. Engaging in the activity and then wanting more of it and going in a cycle.
Yeah.
That's right. The lack satisfaction. They're satisfying very temporarily. So we never actually get the lasting satisfaction that we yearn for and run like a hamster on a treadmill.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's precisely. Yes.
Right. We know the experience all too well. all living beings, right? So, my personal feeling is that piti, which I translate as rapture, some people translate it as ecstasy or euphoria or bliss. I think that it plays the emotional and physical role that's better and more satisfying and more nourishing than the sexual orgasm. This is very sustaining for meditators if they're living the celibate life. So if we go through meditation, you're able to suspend the hindrances and start experiencing piti. It's very satisfying kind of to the heart emotionally. It feels very good for the body also. Their meditators can even go for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days without eating if they're experiencing piti in their meditation. If they have good enough meditation that they can start experiencing and initiating piti. And they feel very sated physically, feeling as though they had eaten. It reminds me of a line from the Dhammapada. How lucky we are that we feed on bliss like the gods. And this is a reflection on the pleasures of meditation. And emotionally, it feels very good, and then it makes the heart calmer. So we have in the factors of enlightenment that we can experience. As it says in the seven bojjhangas, piti and then passaddhi. So piti is being the rapture, and then passaddhi, the tranquility. The heart becomes very calm, kind of like we've eaten well and had a good rest, and then we feel at ease. But it's at a much deeper level because it's all the way in the heart. It's not just about eating physical food and resting the physical body, but it's that we've rested and fed our actual hearts directly. And then passaddhi being a platform to go into equanimity or samadhi, and then equanimity and gain wisdom. So there's real support in meditation for the celibate life that provides pleasures and satisfaction that are greater than sexuality, and form a platform for developing wisdom and then ultimately liberation. So I'd like to encourage anyone to, if you can put time into it, it can take time and it takes perseverance. But if you do, the fruits are very sweet.
Thank you. It's really beautiful. I love that Dhammapada verse.
Right. Right. All right, a comment from Gayatri. Following up on her question about work. Yes, more responsibility with the role. I work for a pharmaceutical company doing research and development of drugs. Okay. So certainly a worthwhile career.
Right. So if you're helping others, that would be in healthcare and doing research and development. Yeah. So yeah. So you're just perfecting your profession, and then they're getting the rewards of probably more pay, and then so what you do with the
Right.
increase in income is if you're doing it for a wholesome. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it greed.
No, right. It's a matter of kind of the heart's quite changeable, and so we might even see it kind of. I think we all experience this in life. The heart can change from moment to moment, even, and so we have different motivations at different times. If we think about, for example, money and prestige, then we may feel some greed arising. Then if we think about the benefit we're performing for society, then we may feel more altruistic feelings. And so I think it's a matter of a little bit of mental discipline also sometimes, and where your new meditation practice comes in. It can be very supportive of this kind of thing. Being mindful about what are your motivations and how does it feel and so on like this. Then in turn, I think if you have really good motivations, that it will feed into your work life in a way that furthers your aims. So you'll do a better and better job and more likely to get promoted and get a raise as a side benefit, in addition to performing a good service for society, if your motivations are really pure and sincere and you're really trying to do a good job. You gain the admiration of your peers and others in your field as well, seeing your altruistic motives. I think there's some questions from the yogis. Linda had her hands up first, I think, if I may say so, Elliot. I apologize. Okay.
Thank you. So I really appreciate the teachings on non-self, and at some level, most of them make sense to me, and I have no, like aversion or any thing to that. There's one teaching that just actually completely confuses me, and so I figured I'd put it out there. And it's when the Buddha says, if there were a self, I'd be able to sort of control it, right? I'd be able to say, don't be sick, or I'd be able to. And I know I'm probably trying to just approach it with the logical mind, and I just don't understand that. Like, I don't disagree with anything, but I don't understand that teaching. So if there's any reflection you can give on that, I'm always curious. I kind of pick it up every now and again, and I still don't understand it. Thank you.
Well, that's from the Natalakkhana Sutta. She was asking about, she understands some aspects of non-self. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So there's some things they're not confusing, but there's a line. If the it's talking about the five khandhas. If the body were self, you could say, let my body be this, let my body not be this. But since it's not the self, then I can't say that. It's not true. And then let my feelings be this, let my feelings not be this. Let my perceptions be this, let my perceptions not be this. Mental formations and consciousness. So when you start looking at it, like let my body be young, let my body be strong. Can I say that? Can I just, will that manifest? Let me not get old. Let me not die. So if it was really mine and I really had control of it, there's a sense of that I can control it. I can, and then I think the concept of self in the time of the Buddha was that you did possess it and you could control it. So there's some aspect of the khandha somewhere that you could manipulate and control. But let my feelings be thus, let my feelings not be thus. So something's painful and I can't just say, let it not be painful. Well, these days you can take drugs and stuff like that, but it's like, I'm going to eat a meal and it's my favorite food and I taste it and it's not pleasant to me for some reason.
Mm.
It's not, I can't control that. Can I control that? No, I can't control it. That's the Vedana is not in my control. Or I would really like to be able to enjoy certain kinds of music, but it's just like, my best friend loves it, and I'm like, yeah. So this is Vedana. That's not pleasant Vedana to me, but it's pleasant Vedana to my friend. So I can't control that. I don't appreciate the same thing that they like, or something like that, or I don't know. I can't think of, but that sense of control. The mind, even like the sankhara. If I want the mind to behave in a particular way. It's just like, let my mental formations be such. Let them not be such. When you're a meditator, you see that, you go, oh, I can't even, this mind has a mind of its own, And so then you start getting the sense of non-self, because even like these things that you think you should be able to control, it's out of our control. So, do you have anything to add to that?
See, I wonder if maybe from a different angle. Okay, maybe I can try a different angle here. Thank you, Aya. That was it's really the key thing, is because actually we think so often that we can really control our lives,
right.
And I think the whole idea of planning into the future has this to some degree as its basis. If we ever think about the future and what I'll do in the future,
Right.
there's one of the fundamental ideas behind this is that we have some control over it. Then also, so many times we find out that things go completely differently. We see how little control we have. The best laid plans of mice and men.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, I think from a different angle, it seems that in the suttas there are many, many, many different possible self theories that the Buddha talks about, and he refutes. And the most commonly quoted and the best known is one. It shows up kind of the most frequently. The idea that any of the five khandhas or all the five khandhas would be constant or permanent, that they would be pleasant, and that they were satisfying, and that then therefore they would be the self. They would be us and ours. They would be the atta and so on. And that's the most common one, I think, and the best known. But it isn't really how many of us would think of a self in the first place nowadays, in modern America, for example. If we think about ourself, do we think of ourself as being something permanent? When I say think, I mean kind of intellectually. If we think about what is my own definition of a self? Would it have something to do with being permanent? Would it have something to do with being ultimately satisfying? Is that really my definition of a self? Okay. However, it says in the suttas, and I think we find this in meditation, that the heart is much different and experiences life much differently than we do intellectually. So even though we may know intellectually that formations are impermanent and they're inconstant, when they change, the heart can be quite surprised and initiate a lot of negative emotions about it. So we lose a loved one, for example. We always knew, if anyone had ever asked us, is your loved one going to die someday? All of us would know that they are. However, the heart doesn't experience it that way as long as it's clouded by delusion. One of the fundamental misperceptions of the heart is that formations are constant and they're permanent. And so when our loved one passes away, it initiates a lot of negative emotions, surprise, denial, and grief, and so on like this. And the reason is that the heart experiences life much differently than we do intellectually. In that sutta, the Anatta-lakkhana Sutta, the Buddha also mentions this other idea about self. If you cannot make your body, you cannot make form. And it would also be other matter as well, not just the body, but also matter externally as well. For example, can you say, may it be like this or may it be like that, and have it be so? And he says, you can't. And so apparently for this group, according to the sutta, he was delivering this to the five attendants who had helped him when he was seeking enlightenment. Apparently for them, and perhaps for other people at the time, they had this view that the atta, the self, was something that you could control. And so he says, well, look at your body. Can you control your body and other matter and energy? And they said, and they'd have to say no. And he'd say, well, therefore, then that is not the atta. And this would theoretically be going by their own definition, kind of thing. Okay. And the Buddha addresses many other kinds of self theories in this way. There are many, even very esoteric self theories, or kind of eccentric, like it is precisely because I have no self that I perceive that there is self. Or it is precisely because there is a self that I perceive that there is no self. There are many kind of unusual self theories that seem unusual to us these days, that the Buddha refutes in the suttas. And so when we look at it in this way, we see that actually the main point kind of is like, what is it that I'm identifying with in my own life? And does it really make sense for me to identify with it and be so emotionally involved with it if it's inconstant and if it's not really going to be ultimately satisfying to me? And through the practice of meditation, slowly let go of these things so that when they do change, and if we do lose them, that they're not so negatively impacted emotionally.
I think.
Well, that was a great question and a great answer. I just have a curiosity. I like to throw it out there from time to time to get feedback, reorient myself with it. I find generally doing loving kindness practice is very good for me. However, oftentimes it's either contrived or forced. And isn't that it loses momentum very quick. I'm mostly doing it in daily life as opposed to formal sitting meditation practice. Generally speaking, I think whenever I do practices with too much like making it happen as opposed to settling into it more naturally, the results are counterproductive. I was wondering if you have any advice on how to find a natural groove with loving kindness in daily life, and no pressure to have a complete answer.
You're in luck because Ajahn Jyoti Paulo is going to be teaching her.
Right.
And he says he's calling it Why I Hate Loving Kindness. But because I think a lot of people have that experience of it seeming a little bit too contrived or forced or something like that. Yeah, so you find in your life what really evokes that feeling, like like the cat or the doing something, even just carefully moving an insect outside with a lot of care. So little acts of kindness. And I think, who is it that says that the emphasis is on kindness? I think that's His Holiness the Dalai Lama, rather the loving, but the kindness aspect of it. And it's also, some people translate it as goodwill. And for me, what I notice, if I notice any anger or hatred arising in my heart, how that's impacting me, it's harming myself. So then the kindness to myself is to abandon that, starting with myself, and then anticipating the harm that it's going to cause others. If I'm holding a grudge or something like that, do I really want to harm that other person? So then I'm giving space for the goodwill to arise. I'm letting go of the unwholesome, and then I'm giving space to developing goodwill. So sometimes people have ill will towards themselves, and then it's really hard for them to start, and it's really subtle. And if you get in touch with the heart, really what's the feeling in the heart? And what am I feeling? Contracted? Am I feeling defensive? Am I feeling actually angry? How can I possibly have loving kindness if I have anger in my heart? So then then we start unraveling that. There's the dukkha, this anger is arising because of some kind of dukkha. And then I'm having compassion. Sometimes you have to start with compassion, having compassion for myself. And then it's about the capacity of the heart to really open up. So if there's any contraction in the heart, then it is going to seem contrived. And but when does our heart open up? Seeing a butterfly, seeing a friend that we haven't seen for a long time, and then experiencing that feeling of the heart opening, someone dear to us. A lot of people, especially in this society, have a hard time with metta because they don't have love for themselves, or they feel there's a kind of a distorted sense of shame that's not a wholesome, like we were talking about earlier at the Hiri Ottappa. It's more like, I'm not a good person, I'm rotten, I did all this nasty stuff in my life, maybe even something very trivial. And then we're holding all that and contracted in our hearts. So to be able to let go, to see, first you have to be in touch with what's going on and be able to unravel and let go of that. Sometimes it's a difficult process. And I remember when I first started doing loving kindness, I was doing that, and I'd be feeling this contraction in my heart, and I would just say, I'm not going to leave you. I love you, even though this voice is saying, go away, leave me alone. And I would just be crying because it was so painful to get in touch with the heart when I first started out. So we have to look at what's blocking us, what's preventing the heart from opening. And that it has to start with ourselves.
We're already up to an hour and 17 minutes.
And then the end time is, so should we go on to another?
It's really up to you, Aya. Yeah, we can go on as long as you like. We usually do an hour.
So there's two questions or one?
Oh, this is Jake is it goes into two fields. So.
Okay, so we could look at what Jake is saying, see if we can.
Jake is saying, how can we skillfully deal with behaviors from others that are extremely emotionally triggering to ourselves? I try to catch myself in the moment and recognize the kleshas at work in my mind. Then part two is, but my emotional reaction can be so intense sometimes that I can't stop myself, and my emotional state unwinds. Unfortunately, I'm not able to simply ask these others to stop what they're doing. Yeah.
Oh, I read this book. Who was it? Somebody from Google, actually, and it was they were writing about their experience in the corporate world, and they were trying to, they were working with their emotional response to people. Sometimes people just, they're just kind of shocking with what they come at you with. And especially people that aren't working with developing their sila and things like that. And so one suggestion he had was just say, excuse me, I need to go for a minute. If you feel like you just want to, I don't know, punch the person or yell at them and say, excuse me, I need to go for a minute. And then you run to the bathroom and shut the door. And just get yourself out of the situation. And if someone close to you that you can say, I'm starting to feel really upset now. I need to excuse myself. and go and then choose another time to talk about it. Can we talk about this later? I need to be able to take a break now. Can we talk about this later? And do something just to kind of, because once that really strong surge of upset comes, then it is, it's all over. The train is already out of the station and it's going kind of at full speed. So you have to kind of divert how it's heading. You can't stop it. Recognizing the kilesas too as soon as possible. Yeah, sometimes it is. It's if we're working on awareness of what's arising as far as unwholesome mental states, it may be that we're not even aware that I'm starting to develop this irritation towards somebody or a situation. And then I think of it like having little pieces of kindling that I keep throwing. Oh, then they said this, and then they did that, and then they said this. And then suddenly they say something, and there's the spark catches, and then there's this huge fire, and then it's out of control. So if we say, oh, I can see that this is building up over time, and I try to diffuse it before, not keep adding to the pile. But that's sometimes why things just kind of, we shock ourselves that the emotional reaction to something is so strong. Extremely emotionally triggering. Yeah. So really taking care of ourselves as well as we can. Sometimes it's not even that person, but their behavior is reminding us of something that happened in our childhood. There's something that's, So it's a lot of deep work we need to do to help heal ourselves, and a lot of compassion for ourselves. And trying to be compassionate for other people, because they're kind of we're all kind of conditioned by our circumstances.
Maybe.
Do you want to add something to that? That's
Well, it just occurred to me. I wonder if Jake has a regular meditation practice. If he has a spiritual practice, seems like he's got some knowledge about what to do. For example, not giving into the kilesas and trying to have self-control and this kind of thing. But he doesn't mention whether or not he has a spiritual practice to support it. And so maybe what I can offer is that it's one thing to know what to do. I has given some very valuable ideas also. But on the other side of things, do you have an actual spiritual practice that will help you develop the ability to do these things? And so, like some of the people who've been watching remotely on the live streams have been saying they've been starting up meditating 20 minutes a day. And this can be very supportive, so that over time, as we find ourselves in these kinds of situations, we're better and better able to deal with them. And, I haven't put in a plug for the weekly observance day yet this week, maybe even for 2 weeks. So it's about time. That it says in the suttas that an integral part of the lay path of practice is putting aside 1 day a week for observing the 8 precepts and meditating. And I personally found this very rewarding in lay life when I was doing that. And so I always like to encourage people to do that as well. And it really speeds up the process, I think, of developing the ability to employ these kinds of techniques in kind of the what do you say, on the spot. What was the term this morning? On the spot awareness. Is that the term?
Yeah.
I apologize. The term you used this morning.
Yeah, that was on the spot meditation.
On the spot meditation. Awesome.
Yeah. So.
All right, great.
So, but what you're observing, what's arising, just at that moment, and you may also notice the wholesome. If you see the unwholesome or the kilesas arising, also pay attention and nurture when, oh, that person was rude to me, but I just let it go. I was able to be compassionate. I thought, oh, maybe they're having a bad day. And just, so
Right.
nurture the, or that person. I realized I had a grudge against this person for all these years, and I was able to let it go. Suddenly there's something that shifted in me, and I saw things differently. So I'm just using these things for example, but when you notice, oh, there's been a change, or oh, what used to bother me is not bothering me now. Or I'm just enjoying, something that I'm feeling joy instead of anger now, or something, so whatever wholesome is arising. And then, oh yes, I did notice that this kilesa was arising. I did notice it. I did think, oh, sometimes I think, oh, this is unskillful. This thought pattern is unwholesome. This isn't going to help me. And the unwholesome thought is going, but they're really bad. No, it's, it's yeah, I know, but it's not helpful. This is not helpful. Getting angry is not helpful. So, yeah, you can talk to yourself, you self-talk, but also congratulate yourself when you go, oh, I noticed that. I actually noticed that sooner. I was able to let it go. So just reinforce the positive, I would say, as well.
Sadhu.
So
Wonderful.
are we...
I wonder if we have any more. What do you think, Gaia? We have thank yous from Gayatri. And she appreciates the reference to the discussion about ego. And then we do have another question here. Okay, from Anonymous. Do novice monks, age 18, 19 years of age, wear brown robes?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, they do.
And Kumu, is the special chant after a talk Amy is referring to Abhiwadana Silesa? No. That is part of another chant, another Anumotana chant. There are actually several chants that fall within the class of Anumotana chants, but and that's part of another one that's oftentimes used after a meal, or as part of a meal blessing, for example, in Thai Buddhism. In Amaranta saying about, oh, okay, oh, she was saying, I think it was something like in letting go of her past career helped her let go of other aspects of a past life. And she says that she's talking about this lifetime, because I don't participate with them too much, not participating with those aspects of your former career. Okay, I think is what is meant there. Okay.
Yeah, so eventually you'll, people that respect you will stay around, and other people will just drop away from your life, and that will be just how things are.
Sadhu.
And then this is...
Anjan says, what did the Buddha say about how to help someone in the grips of grief after the loss of a loved one? Is there a sutta that touches upon this?
Usually the instruction is to contemplate their goodness and rejoice in their goodness. And that, yeah, I always try to console people and just say, yeah, well, there's a certain amount of sadness, but I think there's something that Ajahn Chah said something of feeling like the initial kind of loss and grief, but then allowing that to pass. And I think that thinking about their goodness and rejoicing in their goodness and dedication of merit all these kind of things that people do, celebrating uh, celebrating their lives, grips of grief. Yeah, and then some people just they're not in that stage of development, and they are suffering. So to have compassion for the someone else who's grieving, there's nothing wrong with that. Doing what you can just to someone in the grips of grief after the loss. I don't know about suttas though, specifically. Mostly, I think the Lord Buddha would encourage us to not be overwhelmed by some these kind of emotional states as much as we can. Let's see. Yeah, he usually would. There was a sutta where so as a Visakha and her favorite granddaughter had passed away, and I guess there was a ritual bathing or something. So she came with her hair wet and her clothing wet, and she was grieving, and then he said then she had quite a few children, but he asked about what do you think would if someone would say that all the people in Sawati or wherever there was that these were your children, and would you be happy about that? Something to that effect. I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but and so she said, "Oh yeah, I would be so happy to have so many children." And he said, "Then you'd constantly be having your clothing wet." And then she, so this is one thing I remember about grief, that the more attachment to the you have, the more likely you're going to be grieving. But I don't think he was trying to say that to be not caring or not having loving kindness or compassion towards other people, but it's that attachment to others that causes the grief. I don't know if you have anything.
I think it's great, Aya. I don't think. Thank you.
Yeah, I just don't know. I can't think of offhand other ways he would approach grief.
Right. I can't think of another sutta reference. I did think of that's such a great sutta, the one you're referring to. I love that one about Lady Visakha, about letting go of attachment. Yeah. But
yeah, there was one about a father that was like wailing and crying for his son that passed away, and he had pretty much neglected his son, and then the son dies, and then the son becomes I think the son became did he become a anagami or something, because he'd seen the Lord Buddha.
Oh.
Yeah, there's this maybe in the
this one I think maybe I don't know.
Yeah, there may be a commentary to the Dhammapada verse. I don't know. But they help console the father. He ends up becoming his disciple of the Buddha.
Which it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
something good coming out of grief, looking for relief from grief.
Oh, and then there's Patichara.
Oh, sure. Yes.
There's Patichara where she loses both her children, her husband, and her family that she was trying to return to in the storm, and then she's just totally crazy with grief, and she's just beside herself, and she ends up just like her clothes falling off. At the time of the Buddha, they didn't have buttons and things like that to hold your clothing on. So the Lord Buddha says, he says, regain your mindfulness or something like that, Pratachara, because she's come to, just happens to wander into where he's teaching, and they actually throw a cloak over her to cover her up, and they don't, and the Buddha says, don't prevent her from coming. And then he said, the tears that you cry for people you've grieved in your lives would fill the great oceans. And so she kind of comes back to her senses that, it's not just one lifetime, it's innumerable lifetimes that we've had these kind of losses and grief. So
Right.
I don't know if everyone's ready to hear this kind of teaching, though. You have to be sensitive.
Right.
Vajrachara apparently was receptive to it, and she became a bhikkhuni, and after some time it took her a while actually to become an arahant, but she did actually.
Right.
Yeah, she did through the, it was actually through Sati Sampajanya that she was observing impermanence. But not everybody's ready for those kind of teachings, so you have to be sensitive.
Right.
And we're not Buddhas, so we can't know exactly what the person needs, but
there's maybe, I wonder if some of these stories might be helpful to someone. It depends on their level of faith in Buddhism and kind of their panya, their parami, if they really make a breakthrough. Really, you mentioned Patachara. Another one that occurred to me is the story of Kisa Gotami and the mustard seed.
mm-hmm.
This is also from the Dhamma Pada commentary, the story of Patachara and Kisa Gotami, who also eventually ordained as a bhikkhuni and became the foremost female disciple in wearing coarse robes, as I recall.
Yeah, that's in Terigata. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some stories. Yeah, Patachara, Kisa Gotami, the story of Lady Visakha, and so for yourself, there's the contemplation on equanimity. That all beings are the owners of their actions and they're dependent on their actions. And so that applies both to the loved one who was lost and also to this other person who has lost the loved one. That this is kind of cause and effect relationships playing out. While we might, initially have quite a strong feeling of loving kindness for these people and compassion, may they not suffer. Sometimes there's nothing. Unfortunately, there's nothing really we can do. And so if you can assess the situation with this other person and see, you might guide them towards literature that can help them. But also, if you see that perhaps in some cases it's better to step back a little bit, if you can develop equanimity in this way, this can be very helpful for you as well in dealing with the suffering of your friend who's lost a loved one. And perhaps this simple contemplation also be helpful for your friend that that everyone is born. Everyone who's born also must pass away. This is the nature of human life. And help them to develop some equanimity about it. Another possible way, I guess. Okay. Should we go on? Let's see. Amaranta is very happy with the responses, smiley faces, and thank yous, and Anjali's. And then, oops, lost my place again.
The dedication of you.
Okay, Jake, Kim, Manal. Manal says, very grateful for tonight's Dhamma. You're welcome, Manal. And Amaranta saying, beautiful monk chat. Sud saying, wonderful monk chat, thank you. I had a chance to meet Sud when he came into the monastery several days ago. Very nice to meet him in person. Sumrit Singh, does dedication of merits to loved ones help them in any way, especially when our own karma is our refuge? Okay, this seems contradictory at times. Right. Does dedication of merits to loved ones help them in any way, especially when our own karma is our refuge? This seems contradictory at times. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I think it does help us to do something meritorious. There's no, and dedicate that to a loved one, and it's a good. Certainly, it's a wholesome karma for ourselves, and it doesn't. If I'm dedicating the merit of some wholesome deed to a loved one, it doesn't diminish the effect. In fact, it enhances the effect it has on myself. And it depends on whether you believe in other realms of existence. And I haven't seen this directly myself, but it may be that they're aware of what we're doing and rejoicing in that. If they're in some heavenly realm, then they may be close enough to the human realm. And it is said that in the Peta realm, if there's someone's in the lower realm, then it does benefit them. This is the teaching of the Buddha, but I don't know directly that. Our own karma is our refuge. So I think so if I'm doing something good and people are aware of it on the same plane I'm on, this physical plane, someone's observing me doing something good, then that may influence them. They may be rejoicing in what I'm doing. They see the joy I'm taking and doing something good, and they may be inspired to do something wholesome as well. They see how much joy I'm taking in being generous, and they think, oh, maybe I should try that. So if there's someone, that there's a being in some realm because they've been stingy, and they realize, oh, this is someone is dedicating the merit to me, and look how joyful they are. I don't know. This is all. I can't say from experience. I'm seeing directly other realms of existence, but in this human realm, it does influence me, and it influences those around me. So I don't think our karma is that compartmentalized that it can't affect others. That anything I do is meritorious, may impact positively others.
Sadhu. Thank you, Aya. I'd like to share all of my merit with Aya, and I'll share all of my merit with Samrit, who wrote in with a question. And share all of my merit with the yogis who are here with us this evening. May you share in all of my merit, all the good deeds I've ever done. And hopefully you derive some benefit, but it was very pleasant to do it anyway, if you don't. Okay.
Anamodanadoy or something. Isn't that what they say?
That's right. It's Thai. Oh, sadhu. Wow, you know you're Thai too. Wow. Anamodanadoy. Wow. How did you learn that, Aya?
Because I hung out in Wat Bhutanaswaran.
Oh, in Fremont.
In
Fremont, California. Sure. That's a wonderful one. Wow. Neat. Okay. Okay. Many Anjalis and sadhus and thank yous coming in. It looks like that's the end.
Okay. So we share the merit of this Dhamma discussion with everyone who has participated, everyone that that they're holding dear, and all those who are still suffering in this samsara. May all beings be released from every kind of suffering.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, Aya.
You're welcome. And did you want to put a plug in again for Saturday? And is there something Sunday as well?
That's great. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, sure. The Saturday evening, we have the regular Saturday evening Dhamma program here, starting at 6 o'clock, running until about 7:30. It's a guided meditation with formal Dhamma talk and then question and answer period. Expect Bhante Metiko will be leading the evening tomorrow night here at Empty Cloud Monastery. Then on Sunday, we have a long Dhamma session during the afternoon from 1 to 4. And Venerable Ajahn Jotipalo will be leading that Dhamma session with Dharma Talk and question and answer and sitting and walking meditation. As I mentioned, he's planning to call his talk "Why I Hate Loving Kindness Meditation," and it's an attention-grabbing title. I think many of us can relate to. He says he thinks that he can clarify some things about loving kindness meditation for us based on his years of experience and teaching. And so I think we all really look forward to that. So please come by if you can. And then on May 7th, so just a little over a week away, we have the Wesak Puja celebration here at Empty Cloud Monastery, which will be taking place in the morning and in the afternoon. And have a number of traditional worship activities like circumambulation and chanting of suttas and so on like this. So I'd like to invite everyone to come for that as well. Well, thank you, Aya. And we did our sadhus, and so perhaps we can sign off. Wishing you all well and hope that you all prosper in the Dhamma. Have a good night.